Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and coming up on the show today, the intensity of hostilities is increasing in West Asia, with more strikes being carried out by both US and Iran. And in the latest, the US military, it has denied claims made by Iran's Revolutionary Guards that they had struck the headquarters of the US Navy's 5th Fleet in Bahrain and a separate air base in the region. We're going to get to all the details on the show today. Stay tuned.
Intensity of the strikes and hostilities in the Russia-Ukraine front are also increasing. At least 23 people killed in large-scale Russian assault on the Ukrainian cities. Ukrainian Air Force says 73 missiles, 656 drones were launched, with some even penetrating air defenses. The deceased include 16 people in Dnipro, 7 in Kiev. More on that. Let's start with the headlines first.
US military says it intercepts Iranian missile and drone attacks in Gulf and conducts self-defense strikes on Iran's Keshim Island. Rejects claims that US Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain and an air base in the region have been hit.
Kuwait's military announces that its air defense systems are intercepting what it describes as hostile missiles and drones. The military says any explosion sounds heard are caused by these interception operations.
US forces fire a missile at a vessel attempting to breach blockade on Iranian ports, disabling the ship after it ignored repeated warnings. CENTCOM says the incident marks the 6th ship halted since blockade began on April 13th.
Israel and Hezbollah exchange fire as envoys hold talks in Washington, with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying Hezbollah is blocking peace deal. Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon kill 5 people, including a child, and wound 48.
At least 23 people killed in large-scale Russian assault on Ukrainian cities. Ukrainian Air Force says 73 missiles and 656 drones were launched, with some penetrating air defenses. The dead include 16 people in Dnipro and 7 in Kiev.
Video of a dying student who was handcuffed by British police after being stabbed by a Sikh man and falsely accused of racially abusing his murderer sparks outrage, with protesters throwing bricks at the police.
US officials say 590-meter tunnel from Mexico's Tijuana to California retail store was used to smuggle over $45 million in cocaine. Authorities find reinforced walls, ventilation, rail system, and a hydraulic lift in the tunnel.
Bolivia's Defense Minister Marcelo Salinas resigns amid widespread protests demanding President Rodrigo Paz's ouster as economic turmoil fuels a deepening political crisis.
Asian markets traded higher, with Japan's Nikkei soaring to a record high as investors look past uncertainty surrounding US-Iran tensions. And on Wall Street overnight, the S&P 500 closed at another all-time high.
And the US military has denied claims made by Iran's Revolutionary Guards that the IRGC struck the headquarters of the US Navy's 5th Fleet in Bahrain
and a separate airbase in the region, alleging that it had successfully defeated a series of Iranian missile and drone strikes in the Gulf. Now, US Central Command in a statement said that Iran launched several ballistic missiles. However, all failed to hit their intended targets. 2 missiles fired at Kuwait fell short or broke apart en route, and 3 missiles launched at Bahrain were immediately intercepted.
Well, the statement also claimed its forces shot down 3 one-way attack drones launched by Iran towards what it alleged were civilian mariners who were rightfully transiting regional waters. It added that the American forces also conducted self-defense strikes on an Iranian military ground control station on Qashm Island.
Well, Qashm Island is located in the strategic Strait of Hormuz, the key shipping channel for Gulf oil and gas that has been largely blocked by Tehran since the start of the war with the US and Israel in late February. In a statement carried by the official IRNA news agency, the Revolutionary Guards claimed that they had struck a US military installation in response to the strike on Qashm Island. However, CENTCOM dismissed the claim as false.
Though daily strikes throughout Iran and the Gulf have stopped since Tehran and Washington struck a temporary ceasefire in April, but bursts of armed conflict have continued and only increased in frequency and intensity in the last week. Earlier, US forces fired a missile at a ship that was attempting to sail towards an Iranian port in violation of an American blockade, disabling the vessel. Washington has now forcibly halted 6 ships, it had said, that were attempting to violate the blockade, which has been in place since April 13th.
Well, talks to bring a permanent end to the war has so far been unsuccessful. But US President Donald Trump on Tuesday said that the two sides were speaking continuously, denying reports that Tehran had broken off contact over Israel's attack on Lebanon.
Trump added that one never knows where the negotiations would lead, but in a message to Iran said it's time one way or another to make a deal. All right, to discuss this further, we're now being joined by Mike Wagenheim from Washington, D.C., senior U.S. correspondent at the Jewish News Syndicate. Mike, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for making time. To start right off, frequency of intensity and the intensity of the strikes, they've been increasing in the last 1 week. This ceasefire was always fragile, but what we're seeing in the past since the 25th of May, it's been increasing. Strikes and then the retaliation, whichever way you'd like to see it. Is a resumption of full hostilities imminent?
No, I don't see resumption of full-on hostilities imminent, but I think it is indicative of frustrations here, especially on the American side, that the negotiations have not panned out the way that President Trump had hoped, had not panned out the way that President Trump had been presenting them publicly with a very optimistic tone, and not for the first time either. This is an indication here that the president wants Iran to come to the table with more than what they've been willing to concede so far, and both sides setting their red lines and neither side willing to really budge at this point in time. President Trump's in a very difficult spot here politically. He sold this conflict as one that had already been won, but one that could be easily won regardless. And yet, public polling showing that the American public is not in agreement with him, that A, this war has been won, and B, that whatever has been won has been worth the price in terms of higher oil prices, in terms of involvement in foreign conflicts. And therefore, he's got to come out of this with some face-saving measure at this point in time. And so the American lashing out here at the Iranians, not surprising. It's a pressure tactic to try to get them back to the table here and move forward the process of trying to bring about a conclusion to this war. But I think the president, the administration, the military is measured in what they're doing right now, that they don't, especially with their Gulf allies in harm's way, they don't want to flip that switch where they're giving the Iranians a reason to retaliate disproportionately. So everything being kept in proportion right now. There's this gamesmanship being played, and I think we're going to see that become the status quo over the coming days and weeks until the president of the administration can try to locate an off-ramp to bring about an end to this conflict.
All right, I've heard your point, Mike, but it's interesting that you say that the US has won, because that's a statement that has come in from the US, Donald Trump largely, time and again. But when you look at it from the counter to that, West Asia, across West Asia, all the US bases, they've taken an entire amount, or extreme amount of attacks. No doubt Iran has taken a good amount of beating, but at this point, West Asia, across all countries there, the US bases have taken a lot of hits. Iran has proven that they can fire when they want at any of these bases. Their air defenses have taken a good amount of toll. Their foreign policy, largely no other country wanting to come in and be part of this war. Iran has really ensured that they continue to maintain that blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. And then now there is a question, who really controls the Strait of Hormuz? So whether who's won here, that seems to be an argument coming in from both sides.
Yeah, to be clear, it's not my judgment whether the American side has won, lost, or anywhere in between. I'm simply putting out the perspective of the administration here. No, I certainly in the public side, the U.S. has not been able to claim victory as of yet in terms of who controls the Strait of Hormuz. Listen, I think the American blockade of the Iranian closure, this layered military operation that's going on, has been rather effective so far, but it simply becomes a game of chicken, and it becomes a game of who is willing to bear the most amount of economic pain. That's the American plan right now, to enforce that blockade until the Iranians agree to free up the strait. The Americans are paying a high price, obviously, with the higher oil prices, higher commodities prices. The Iranians are paying a massive price as well in terms of not being able to get their oil out and to get other exports out. But again, it comes down to who is willing to bear the most amount of pain. You mentioned on top of it, the Gulf allies have borne the brunt of this war. I mean, the UAE has been attacked more than Israel has by Tehran so far. And so we're seeing that very subtle public pressure. A lot of it has come privately. But publicly, it's been very subtle from Gulf allies to say, hey, we've kind of gotten out of this war what we think we're going to get out of it in terms of positive ramifications. There's not going to be regime change as many had hoped there would be in Tehran. In fact, the situation may have gotten worse with the leadership and its willingness to budge on certain issues. And so the Saudis of the world, the Bahrainis, the Kuwaitis, as we're seeing tonight, taking more hits, they're sending messages that, hey, we've got to find a way to wrap this thing up because they're ultimately the ones that are paying the higher price here.
Yeah, and not to forget the approval ratings for Donald Trump. They've been plummeting as the weeks continue. Diksha.
Absolutely. And of course, to say that the pressure is subtle would be an understatement at this point, because we understand that Washington is under immense pressure. And even though President Trump continues to insist that the talks are very much alive with Iran, what we're seeing is that the counter coming in from Iran, where they've said that the communication is either halted or it's slowed down while the strikes continue. Now, I just want to understand from you, Mike, from Washington's perspective here, is there still a coherent diplomatic strategy or process that is in place, or perhaps, the ground reality is beginning to outplace the diplomacy at this point?
Well, the president and the administration, and it's not just in this conflict, in many conflicts, have kind of employed this double-track strategy, and it's not an either-or strategy. It's not either we're going to pursue diplomatic avenues primarily, or we're going to pursue military avenues. It's been in tandem. And the basic perspective has been, we'll open the door to diplomacy, we'll do whatever we can to get an agreement, but we're going to move forward with putting assets in place militarily, move forward with the threats, move forward with occasional strikes. It's not one or the other at any given time. And so it's no surprise here that even as the administration says that talks are ongoing, and again, Iran disputes that at this point, but even as the administration says talks are ongoing, they're not willing to pull the proverbial and literal trigger here on a military action at the same time to keep that leverage in check, to keep that threat in check. What good is the diplomatic leverage if you can't back it up if it fails? And so that's been the administration strategy, not just in this conflict, but elsewhere. But to the portion of your question here, it doesn't seem as if whatever diplomatic strategy is being employed has really gone anywhere. President Trump has been saying for a couple of months now, on and off, that talks have been progressing, that a deal is within reach. We've heard different versions of this, none of which have panned out at this point. So I think it's less important whether talks are actually happening, and I think of greater importance whether either side is willing to budge off of their red lines at all, because if they're not, you can talk all day and all night.
Yeah.
It's simply not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, there is that sense that we have been going in loops over the same process happening again and again, and we'll have to see if this coercive diplomacy actually is the result that the Trump administration is hoping for. But another flashpoint that has emerged as a byproduct of this conflict is, of course, what's happening in Lebanon. And, Trump recently claimed that he has secured commitments from both Israel and Hezbollah to halt attacks. Yet within hours, we saw fresh strikes taking place in southern Lebanon. Now, is this perhaps, it has exposed the limits of American, leverage over its allies and adversaries in the region?
Hezbollah is a very unique matter when it comes to the Israel-Lebanon conflict, because President Trump can apply pressure certainly to the Israelis and certainly to the Lebanese, because he has leverage, immense leverage with those two particular countries. But Hezbollah, the Lebanese have been unable to solve the Hezbollah problem for many decades, and Hezbollah does not answer to the Americans in any way, shape, or form. They answer to Tehran. So simply putting more pressure on Jerusalem and Beirut doesn't really have an impact on Hezbollah. And those Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon as a result of more rocket fire from Hezbollah into northern Israeli communities, which have caused an immense amount of damage over the last few days or so. And so round and round we go. Talks took place again at the State Department today, direct negotiations between the Israelis and the Lebanese, with the Americans brokering. Talks will continue tomorrow. But once more, I think Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, put it pretty succinctly in his testimony on Capitol Hill today. Israel and Lebanon could reach a peace agreement tomorrow. I think that's a little far-fetched, but his basic point is there is no immense disagreement between the Israeli government and the Lebanese government that would cause them to go to war. The problem has been, is currently, and always will be until it's over, Hezbollah. And still, we haven't really heard any solutions as to how the Israelis and the Lebanese are going to team together to once and for all take care of the disarmament of Hezbollah. Until then, peace, great, it's aspirational, but in reality, Hezbollah still holds the cards with the current conflict here, and there really doesn't seem to be a resolution, though optimism at least emanating from Washington that a solution can be found to that particular problem, even if one can't be found with Iran itself.
Yeah, but what's happening in Lebanon is definitely posing as a major hindrance to the overall peace process, because Iran has made it clear the war there needs to stop for any kind of peace agreement to be achieved between US and Iran. And we're also hearing of these reports of Donald Trump and Netanyahu having tough conversations. Let me just leave it there without getting into the specifics. But the fact that Israel has gone into Lebanon the furthest that it has in the last 26 years, it gives you the sense that this is not just self-defense from the Israeli side, but there will be more to discuss on that front. Mike, it was a pleasure speaking with you. More to discuss. Would look forward to speaking with you again.
All right, and moving on, the death toll from Russia's latest missile and drone attack across Ukraine has risen to 23, while more than 130 people have been wounded.
Well, the United Nations has said that they've condemned the strikes and called for an immediate ceasefire. Ukrainian President Zelensky has also urged citizens to remain alert, warning of the possibility of another large-scale attack.
The Ukrainian Air Force says that Russia launched 73 missiles and 656 drones through the night. Despite Ukraine's multi-layered defenses, dozens penetrated, striking residential areas. In Kyiv, 7 people died and around 50 were injured.
While in Dnipro, a 4-story apartment building collapsed, killing 16 people, including 2 children.
Residents rushed to underground metro stations, holding bags and blankets as explosions echoed through Kyiv.
The United Nations strongly condemned the attacks, calling them violations of international humanitarian law.
Attacks against civilians and civilian infrastructures are prohibited under international humanitarian law and must end immediately. We also reiterate the Secretary General's urgent appeal for immediate de-escalation, leading to a full, immediate and unconditional ceasefire.
Speaking in Estonia, Ukraine's Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko says that she hopes a US delegation will soon visit Kyiv to understand the conditions and intensify negotiations. Listen to this.
We really hope that the promised visit of the American delegation will help once again intensify negotiations, but solely by diplomatic means, because the American delegation really did promise to come to Kyiv. They have already been to Russia 7 times. It seems to me that in order to understand the conditions in which we live and function as a state, it is important to come to Kyiv, to talk with Ukrainian society, to meet Ukrainian soldiers.
Ukraine's President Zelensky praised rescuers and warned citizens to brace themselves for another possible assault for the second night in a row.
Hundreds of people in Kyiv, Dnipro and other cities worked in the aftermath of Russia's massive attack, extinguishing fires, helping the wounded, rescuing people trapped under rubble. I am grateful to everyone saving lives. According to our intelligence, another large-scale attack may occur tonight. Please, I strongly urge you to pay attention to air raid alerts.
The latest attack on Kyiv comes a week after Russia reportedly used its hypersonic Oreshnik ballistic missile against the Ukrainian capital. Moscow says hypersonic missiles were again deployed in the latest barrage as Russia intensifies strikes on Kyiv's infrastructure.
Now, the escalation follows Vladimir Putin's accusations that Ukraine was behind an attack on a student dormitory in Luhansk that killed 21 people and injured more than 40 others. Putin has vowed accountability, ordering investigators to pursue those responsible. And major protests broke out in UK's southern city of Southampton over the death of an 18-year-old student.
Well, the student was handcuffed as he lay dying from stab wounds after his killer falsely alleged a racist attack last December. Protesters marched through the city centre towards the scene of the crime, where police blocked the road. The demonstrators then attacked officers with bricks, bottles and pins. The attacker, Vikram Digwa, a 23-year-old Sikh man, was sentenced to life in prison on Monday, having lied to police at the time that the victim, Novak, had assaulted him.
This is like numerous times this has happened to us. We've been walking, we parked multiple times we've had people racist attacks, and nothing happened.
18-year-old Henry Novak was heard repeatedly telling officers, "I can't breathe," in police body cam footage. He lay mortally wounded after a night out with his football team members. The footage played during Digwa's trial showed police accepting the aggressor's accusation rather than helping Novak, initially handcuffing him despite his pleas that he had been stabbed and could not breathe. Judge William acknowledged in court that the case had stirred racial tension across Britain.
While several UK far-right figures, including firebrand Tommy Robinson, have seized on the case, who addressed a rally in Southampton at the site of the murder, claiming police treat white British people as second-rate citizens. Nigel Farage, whose anti-immigration reform party leads opinion polls, said that it was an example of the rights of ethnic minorities trumping those of white British people. Listen to this.
We've brought in what is called positive discrimination in favour of ethnic minorities over those of white people whose families have lived in Britain in many cases for centuries. The biggest fear a police officer now has going about his or her duty on the street is the fear of being reported for having acted in a way that was racially biased.
And the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that the body cam footage was harrowing and called the investigation absolutely right. He also acknowledged that there are serious questions for the police to answer here.
Henry Novak was a kind, thoughtful and much loved young man, and this has understandably been devastating for his parents, for his family and everybody who knew him. And I have seen the footage. It's harrowing, and I have to say, as a father of a 17-year-old boy, I felt sick watching it.
While Interior Minister Shabana Mahmood had condemned the disgraceful violence against police, saying those responsible will face the full force of the law.
A dangerous undercurrent that I have seen in the reaction to this awful crime. Threats against police officers are utterly unacceptable. There can be no justification for intimidation, abuse, or attempts to take the law into one's own hands.
Meanwhile, the family of Henry Novak said that their son was treated in an inhumane and degrading manner and called on the government to act on knife crime as a national emergency. Novak's family said that they don't want Henry's death to be used to create further division and tensions.
This is like the times this has happened to us. We've been walking, we parked.
All right, and before we slip into a very short break on World DNA, here's a quick look at the images drawing our attention from around the world. Stay tuned, you're watching Beyond World is One.
WION asks what matters. The question the world wanted answered.
We're having a lot of racist comments coming from the United States against Indian Americans. So this would against the peace provides between the US relationship. What's your take on that?
Look, I'm sure that there are people that have made comments online and other places because every country in the world has stupid people. I'm sure there are stupid people here. There are stupid people in the United States that make dumb comments.
One question, one exchange, global reactions. When WION asks, the world follows. Get the WION edge.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
breaking
missiles
news.
And raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
Welcome back. You're watching World DNA with Deeksha. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. Let's start with the headlines.
Donald Trump says US and Iran are still in continuous contact, denying reports that Iran has cut off talks amid regional tensions. Says negotiations have been ongoing daily, though he acknowledged uncertainty about their outcome.
US military fires Hellfire missile at a tanker heading towards Iran as part of a blockade being imposed by the Trump administration. Central Command releases the video of the attack, saying the strike hit the vessel's engine room, disabling it.
US military says it intercepted Iranian missile and drone attacks in Gulf and conducts self-defense strikes on Iran's Kesh Island. Rejects claims that US Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain and an airbase in the region have been hit.
Israel and Hezbollah exchange fire as envoys hold talks in Washington, with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying Hezbollah is blocking the peace deal. Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon killed 5 people, including a child, and wound 48.
Video of a dying student who was handcuffed by British police after being stabbed by a Sikh man and falsely accused of racially abusing his murderer sparks outrage, with protesters throwing bricks at police.
Pakistan security forces say they have killed at least 17 suspected militants in intelligence-based operations across Balochistan following a bomb attack on a shuttle train in Quetta last week.
Bolivia's defense minister Marcelo Sarnas resigns after widespread protest demanding President Rodrigo Paz's ouster as economic turmoil fuels a deepening political crisis.
Oil prices rose on Wednesday and as escalating US-Iran tensions and fresh strikes in West Asia fueled supply concerns. Brent and US crude both gained over 1%, even as Washington insisted nuclear talks with Iran are still ongoing.
Israel and Hezbollah continue to exchange fires as Israeli and Lebanese envoys met in Washington for direct talks.
But the fresh escalation, despite US President Donald Trump's announcement on Monday that he brokered a deal as part of which Israeli forces would not bomb the Lebanese capital in exchange for Hezbollah not attacking Israel. Lebanon's state-run national news agency, they reported the Israeli strikes on around 30 locations across the south. Hezbollah, meanwhile, said that it had attacked Israeli troops in southern Lebanese territory on land that they occupy, but did not claim attacks in Israel.
Well, the fighting took place with Israeli and Lebanese diplomats in Washington for a 4th round of direct talks since the start of the current war. A United Nations peacekeepers vehicle convoy was seen around the border areas between Israel and Lebanon on Tuesday, while Israeli military presence was maintained in the area.
Well, US State Department spokesperson Tommy Pigott said that progress continues on the political and security tracks after the first day of talks ended. Another round is scheduled now for Wednesday.
While there's no response from Israel, Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam called the talks, which are strongly opposed by Hezbollah, the least costly choice for Lebanon. A senior Hezbollah member told AFP that the group will not accept a partial ceasefire.
Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio told a hearing of the Senate's Foreign Relations Committee that Israel and Lebanon can make a peace deal tomorrow if not for Hezbollah, who he labeled as an impediment.
And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
The Trump administration is working to keep the Israeli-Lebanon ceasefire talks separate from the nuclear negotiations with the Islamic Republic of Iran. This, according to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Testifying before Congress, Rubio said that Tehran is trying to link the two issues together for leverage, while Washington wants the Israel-Lebanon track to stand on its own. Rubio accused Iran of trying to delay a deal so that it can later claim credit for any breakthrough. Rubio also clarified that President Trump did not speak with anyone from Hezbollah. The Secretary of State said that no U.S. president has communicated with the group, which Washington designates as a terrorist organization. Instead, that message that the president was referring to earlier came through the Lebanese government, which said Hezbollah would hold fire only if Israel refrained from striking Beirut. Talks between Israel and Lebanon are set to resume on Wednesday, even as Israeli strikes and Hezbollah attacks continue on the ground. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
A massive political transition is officially underway in Karnataka.
Well, today, Congress's D.K. Shivkumar will take the oath of office as the state's next chief minister, marking a brand new chapter for the ruling party, the high-stakes transition. It follows days of intense deliberation in New Delhi. Now, Congress National President Mallikarjun Kharge and Lok Sabha Leader of Opposition Rahul Gandhi, they chaired a crucial meeting with Chief Minister-designate Shivkumar and outgoing Chief Minister Siddaramaiah to finalize the new cabinet contours and discuss the upcoming Rajya Sabha nominees.
Well, Congress General Secretary K.C. Venugopal was also involved in those ministerial huddles. Looking ahead, Shivakumar outlined a bold vision for the state of Karnataka, pledging to support farmers, women and the youth. He said the world is seeing India through Bengaluru and Karnataka and vowed to strengthen the state's status as a premier global tech and economic hub.
Well, today's mega event has drawn a diverse gathering of religious leaders, community representatives, social groups and notable figures from the film, judiciary, sports and business worlds.
But the transition is not without fierce pushback. The opposition BJP is slamming the move. BJP national spokesperson Shehzad Poonawalla accused the Congress of playing an endless game of thrones, claiming governance and administration have taken a backseat to internal power struggles.
Now, despite the political firestorm, today's swearing in formally ends months of leadership speculation. All eyes now turn to the stage as the focus shifts to the final cabinet lineup, portfolio allocations, and the policies that will define Shiv Kumar's era. And something extraordinary is happening on Wall Street. For the first time, investors consider Nvidia to be less likely to default on its debts than the United States federal government.
And in this next report, we dive into the details of why Wall Street is betting big on the AI darling. More in this next report. Take a look. Nvidia's credit rating now ranks better than the US government debt. The firm's 5-year credit default swap, or CDS, is currently trading at around 38 basis points. The US sovereign bond CDS sits slightly higher at 40 basis points. A CDS is essentially an insurance contract against default. The lower the price, the safer the market thinks the borrower is. Right now, markets are pricing Nvidia as safer than America itself. And this is a remarkable moment in financial history. So what is driving this confidence? The answer lies in Nvidia's balance sheet. In the last fiscal year, Nvidia generated nearly $100 billion in free cash flow. The company held approximately $10.6 billion in cash. Its total debt stood at just $8.5 billion. In simple terms, Nvidia has more cash than debt. It owes less than it holds. That makes it one of the most financially sound companies anywhere in the world. Here is another way to understand Nvidia's strength. Even if the company's earnings collapsed by 90%, it would still rank among the 100 most profitable companies on the planet. A 90% earnings wipeout, and it still survives in the global elite. That is how wide the margin is. The United States, by contrast, carries over $36 trillion in national debt. It runs a persistent fiscal deficit. Markets are watching that trajectory closely. The gap between Nvidia and the US government in creditworthiness, while small in basis points, is symbolically enormous. This is not just about Nvidia being a good company, it is about what markets believe the future looks like. Nvidia sits at the center of the artificial intelligence revolution. It makes the chips that power AI data centers globally. Demand shows no sign of slowing. When bond markets trust a single technology company more than the world's largest sovereign government, it tells you something profound about where power and stability are shifting in the 21st century economy. Markets have made their call, and the message from investors is clear. In the age of artificial intelligence, the companies building the infrastructure are becoming some of the safest bets. Business Bureau, WION, World is One. Anthropic, it has said that it will expand the access to its AI model Claude Mythos through its Project Glasswing initiative.
Well, the access to Mythos will expand from about 50 organizations to nearly 200. The new participants in the project, they come from more than 15 countries and belong to healthcare, power, water and communications networks.
Anthropic said that participants must meet strict security requirements before they can access Claude Mythos.
The company first unveiled its AI model Mythos in April, describing it as its most advanced system yet for coding and cybersecurity tasks. The model was introduced through a control program called Project Glasswing, with access restricted to a select group of organizations, including Amazon, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Apple, among dozens of other companies responsible for building or maintaining critical digital infrastructure.
Anthropic said that it worked with the US government, existing Glasswing partners and members of the cybersecurity industry on the expanded rollout. The company said that its technology has already helped partners identify more than 10,000 software flaws that were considered highly severe or critically severe. The release of Mythos preview in April also raised concerns about the potential risks of advanced AI after the systems demonstrated an ability to discover and combine small software bugs into more serious security threats.
Now, according to reports, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and then Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell held an urgent meeting with bank chiefs to discuss the risks which are posed by the technology.
Well, financial institutions also sought access to the system while racing to fix potential weaknesses in their own software. Anthropic said that it plans to make Mythos class models available to all customers in the coming weeks with additional safeguards in place.
And the mystery over the disappearance or death of 11 US scientists linked to UFO and nuclear research since 2022 continues to baffle people.
Now, one of the researchers on the list has been found dead 11 months after she went missing. The case dates back to June of last year. Melissa Casillas worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory, where leading nuclear research is conducted. She was reported missing on June 26, 2025, after failing to show up at work and home.
Later, her family discovered that her personal belongings, including purse, identification documents and cell phone, had been left behind at home. On May 28th, a hiker stumbled upon her human remains in the Carlson National Forest, located around 24 kilometers away from her home. A handgun was also found at the spot.
Confirming the death of Casillas, New Mexico State Police extended their condolences to her kin. The police said, and I'm quoting from their statement, the cause and manner of death have not been determined. The remains will undergo further anthropological examination by the Office of Medical Investigator.
Now, who are the other US scientists whose disappearance or death has sparked speculation that they might have been targeted by America's enemies? Well, the list includes Amy Eskridge, a scientist attempting to develop anti-gravity technology. In 2022, she was found dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Over the next 2 years, 2 more scientists associated with NASA were found dead. Just a month before Melissa Cassius, another ex-Los Alamos employee, Anthony Chavez, went missing after leaving home. And this was followed by the disappearance of aerospace executive Monica Reza, who went on a hiking trip in California. Similarly, government contractor Stephen Garcia stepped out carrying a handgun and was never seen again. In December 2025, Novartis researcher Jason Thomas disappeared, with his body found from Massachusetts Lake in March this year. Additionally, astrophysicist Carl Grillmeier, who collaborated with NASA, was also killed. The last case of disappearance dates back to February 27th, when retired Air Force General William McCaslin vanished from his home. His wife even admitted that he had a brief association with the UFO community.
Well, at present, the FBI is leading an investigation in coordination with the Department of Energy, Department of War and local law enforcement agencies to hunt for any possible connection between the disappearance or death of these scientists. The U.S. House Oversight Committee has also sought information in this regard.
U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to get to the bottom of this mystery. In late April, he termed it very serious and revealed that a thorough report is being prepared on the issue. Listen to this.
So far, there's not a major, there's sometimes a little bit of a connection anyway, and you say, oh, this is a terrible thing. But so far, we're finding that there's not much of a connection. We'll let you know. We're going to be doing a full report on it. It's very serious.
The world's biggest sporting spectacle is set to begin. Zee Entertainment Enterprises Limited. Zee has new live sports TV channels under the brand name United Sports, and they're all now live.
Well, Zee will broadcast the 2026 and 2030 World Cups and the 2027 Women's World Cup among 39 FIFA tournaments until 2034.
In just over a week from now, the world's biggest sporting spectacle begins. FIFA World Cup is almost here. From June 11th, 48 teams will battle it out for football's biggest prize over the next month or so. The World Cup brings unforgettable moments of joy, stunning goals, dramatic victories, and historic celebration. Now the sporting fans in India have the chance to witness the biggest football event live. Zee Entertainment Enterprises Limited, or Zee, has launched its new live sports TV channels under the brand name United Sports. The upcoming FIFA World Cup tournament will be exclusively available on Zee's 4 channels: United Sports 1, United Sports 1 HD, United Sports 2, United Sports 2 HD. These 4 new channels are available across 500 plus leading cable and distribution platforms across India. This includes Dish TV, Tata Play, Airtel, Sun Direct and City Networks. The live streaming will be available on ZEE5, aiming to bring the football frenzy more closely to Indian audiences. Zee has secured the rights to broadcast the FIFA World Cup and all major global FIFA tournaments from 2026 up to 2034. This includes a total of 49 FIFA tournaments worldwide. Celebrations providing extensive coverage. With rights spanning nearly a decade, the Indian audience will witness every major FIFA tournament in that span and experience global football culture directly through Zee's platforms.
The FIFA World Cup is being co-hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico and kicks off on June 11th. For the first time in history, the tournament expands to 48 teams playing a record 104 matches. Zee Entertainment Enterprises Limited has partnered with FIFA to broadcast World Cup matches across India. Zee says the partnership with FIFA and the new 4 channels will play a pivotal role in expanding the reach of football with fans across every part of India. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
And in other news, British actor Idris Elba was awarded knighthood by Britain's King Charles III.
And this was at a ceremony at Windsor Castle. The 53-year-old star of Luther, The Wire and The Suicide Squad was knighted in the New Year's honours for his services to young people. The actor is known for his humanitarian efforts with Elba Hope Foundation that he started to support youth education and empowerment. He has also been regularly associated with King Charles' charity King's Trust. Elba too has used a grant from the trust to attend the National Youth Music Theatre when he was 18. And this was at a time when it was known as the Prince Charles Trust. At present, Elba is involved in a documentary to mark the 50th anniversary of the King's Trust after the official knighthood. The actor posed for photographs wearing his Knight Bachelor medal at Windsor Castle with his wife, Sabrina Dowry.
Now, as for his acting career, Elba had last appeared as man-at-arms in the upcoming fantasy film Masters of the Universe. In his acting career, Elba has been part of critically acclaimed movies such as Beasts of No Nation, Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom and American Gangster. Some of his contributions to blockbuster franchises include his voice acting in the animated film Zootopia. He has also played the role of as the Guardian Gatekeeper, Heimdall in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
China's growing loneliness economy is turning companionship into a business opportunity.
From hiking trails to restaurants and mobile apps, millions of young Chinese are now paying for company in a society which is undergoing rapid social change. Now, even on Mount Tai, one of China's most famous peaks, visitors can hire paid climbing buddies who walk alongside them, carry bags, take photographs, and even offer conversations for a few hundred yuan. According to a Reuters report, similar services now include companions for running, side skiing, and even sharing hot pot meals. A dining tradition usually enjoyed with friends and family.
Well, students and gig workers promote these services on social media, promising not just practical help, but also what they describe as emotional value in China. And these experiences that were once part of friendships are reportedly increasingly becoming paid services. While official figures are unavailable, estimates cited by Chinese state media valued the country's companion economy at roughly $7.4 billion in 2025.
Now, researchers in state media link this trend to rising demand for emotional consumption as young people move farther from families, work longer hours, and struggle to maintain traditional social connections. Psychotherapists say that paid companionship offers certainty and control in social situations, where the risk of rejection and emotional investment can create anxiety. The phenomenon also reflects deeper demographic and economic pressures. The number of marriages in China have nearly halved, falling from a peak of 13.47 million in 2013 to 6.76 million in 2025.
Well, many analysts also connect the trend to the legacy of China's one-child policy, which ended in 2016 but helped create what many describe as China's lonely generation. Today, companionship apps connect users with gaming and chatting partners, while millions of young Chinese increasingly rely on soft toys and artificial intelligence to cope with loneliness, stress, and anxiety. Experts say the trend highlights growing uncertainty among Chinese youth as economic growth slows, property values decline, and jobs become harder to find.
Your pet cat may be more than just a furry companion, from curling up on couches to helping crack one of medicine's biggest mysteries.
Well, cats may have just earned a new title, Cancer Research Partners. In a landmark study, scientists have analyzed nearly 500 tumors from domestic cats across multiple countries and discovered that many of the same genetic mutations driving cancer in humans are also found in felines.
Well, the mutation appeared in roughly 1/3 of feline tumors, almost identical to the rate seen in human cancers. Scientists say that that's a powerful clue that cats and humans may share common biological pathways when cancer develops.
Experts believe pet cats offer a unique advantage. Unlike laboratory animals, they naturally develop cancer while living in the same environments as their human owners, breathing the same air, sharing many of the same exposures, and often also suffering from similar diseases.
The research also reveals similarities in cancers affecting the skin, blood, bone, lungs, digestive system, and even aggressive mammary tumors that resemble human breast cancer. Scientists say that the findings could accelerate the development of precision medicine, allowing treatments to target specific cancer mutations rather than focusing solely on the organ where the cancer appears.
Well, the study has already created one of the world's largest genetic databases of feline cancers, giving researchers a new tool to search for treatments that could help both pets and people. Researchers call it a One Health approach, where discoveries in veterinary medicine and human medicine work hand in hand. And if the science holds up, the next major breakthrough in cancer treatment may come not from a laboratory mouse, but from the cat sitting on your lap. All right, viewers, that's a wrap on this edition of World DNA. Before we slip into a short break, here are all the climate stories making headlines across the world. Stay with us. This is WION World is One.